Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second kickoff event today. So excited to welcome everyone. We are still in West Texas, but we're starting to move a little bit north up to the Permian Basin and the Panhandle as well. We just opened up the Zoom webinar, and then we also are just now started our Facebook Live feed. So we'll get started in a couple of seconds. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today, and we will be getting started very, very soon. Okay, I'm hoping that our friends on Facebook Live are tuning in, can see us. I think the feed is up and going. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Katie Martin Lightfoot. I am the Census Community Engagement Coordinator at Every Texan, and I also get to coordinate the Texas Counts campaign. If you are tuning in, chances are that you know that Texas Counts has been going on a virtual road trip of Texas. If you tuned in on Monday, we were in East Texas and the Gulf Coast. Yesterday, we went down south to the Valley in South Texas, and now we are finally making our way out west. So this morning, we had an amazing kickoff event with some of our friends out in West Texas, and now we really want to hear some voices in the Permian Basin and the Panhandle. Again, just talking about why it is so important to make sure that our communities are counted on the 2020 census. We have an amazing lineup of speakers today. Really excited to have so many voices sharing out about, again, why the Permian Basin, Panhandle, and West Texas counts. Apologies. We are going to go ahead and get started with our amazing list of speakers, and really excited first to be welcoming Commissioner Sanchez from the Midland County Commission. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and the floor is yours, Commissioner.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for having us today, and I want to welcome everyone to this call. Again, we are in the Permian Basin out here in Midland, Odessa. And as you know, we've got a lot of challenges that have come before us. Before the census actually started, one of our biggest issues was the fact that we had so many people here working in the oil fields and making sure that we had an accurate count, especially in these areas that are known as man camps. It's a local word here. What it is, it's just a group of people that live in RVs all over the county, making sure that we had those guys that are being counted in this census. And that's the thing that makes our community very special and unique. These man camps are found all over Midland County. For those people that live in the West Texas area, in the Permian Basin, who have oil and gas, they know exactly what I'm talking about. We don't really have people who live in hotels. We have people that live in hotels and RVs, not really just in homes. So it's a very different challenge from what we had 10 years ago. The Census 2020 is very important to us, making sure that we get an accurate count. Because with these funds, it's what's going to help us continue to grow when it comes to building roads, some of our schools that we're needing right now because they're so overcrowded. Our roads are overcrowded, making sure that we get the monies that are needed here to be able to grow within Midland. That's how it directly impacts our community. An accurate count will help us in the future when it comes to grants, when it comes to even business development out here, making sure that we've got the people that are needed to be counted. A lot of folks in the area that I represent, which is Precinct 3, majority of the folks here are Latino and African American. Sometimes they ask, why don't we have stores? Why don't we have clinics in our neighborhoods? Well, the reason why is because if we don't make our voices heard, if we don't make ourselves count, it's going to remain the same. For us to be able to change that, right now is the moment to be able to make ourselves count, to make sure that people understand that it's something that's very easy. They've made it so easy this year that you can even do it online. And I know that currently in Midland, our response right now is 51.8% is a self-response rate. About 44% of that was done on the internet. 10 years ago, the total response was 67%. So we still got a ways to go. We've got some creative ideas, making sure that we do a lot of outreach through Hispanic and Spanish media. We've done it to where we've got an hour show and people are calling in and saying, how do we fill out our census forms? And we help them do that. So we're trying to find new ways to do it. We created some t-shirts out there with all the questions already. So as we're walking in the neighborhoods, one side is English, one side is Spanish, and you show people, these are the questions that are on the census form. This is how easy it is to get done. So this way people aren't taken by surprise. So yeah, we try to make it as entertaining as we can, as fun as we can. Our libraries are open for people to come in and do their census forms online. So we're very excited. We're hoping for the best. We're really hoping that we get a large number of people that come out and do the census. So definitely want to encourage everyone to continue to do that.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. One, of course, for joining us today, but two, for highlighting a lot of really important facts about the census. One, of course, being our businesses use that census information to figure out where to set up shop. And so we want to make sure that we have those accurate numbers so our communities can thrive. We have the services, the businesses that we need in our communities. With that as well, I love that y'all are out in the communities wearing those shirts that are bilingual and just promoting the 2020 census. And it really is a community effort trying to get out the count. And I love that it's just an all hands on deck approach, and excited about where your self-response numbers are. And I'm sure that y'all can get to where we'll hopefully surpass that 2010 number. Now, thanks again, Commissioner, for joining us. We are going to switch gears a little bit. We have a few folks representing the Panhandle who weren't able to join us in person, but they are going to be joining us via a video. And so my co-host, Erin, is going to pull up that video for us. And I would like to introduce the county judge from Lubbock. So let's go ahead and play this.
Hello, my name is Judge Curtis Parrish. I'm the county judge here in Lubbock County, and we want to welcome you to this virtual tour of Lubbock County. The 2020 census is so very important for counties like Lubbock County. In fact, Lubbock County is very unique. We have a large urban city in Lubbock, plus we also have rural areas here in Lubbock. So we're neither rural nor urban. As I like to say, we're kind of a Reuben County. And as a Reuben County, we have issues both in our urban areas, and we've got urban issues in a city as large as Lubbock, but we also have great urban issues in our counties, such as our agricultural industry, our colonias that we have here in Lubbock County as well. So it's vitally important that we make sure that everyone in Lubbock County is counted. And the reason is, and we've seen just recently, one of the reasons why we want to make sure everybody is counted is the coronavirus. Now, we've seen funding come to our cities and counties based on the population of our cities and counties. So if everybody is adequately counted in our county, we can make sure that we get the federal and state funds that are due to us. Also, what's very important is not just for emergency management purposes, but also for the everyday things like schools. You know, where do we build a school? Well, we build it in neighborhoods where we know people live. If you're not counted in the census, we don't know where you live, therefore we can't build a school or adequately fund a school in your neighborhood. So it's very, very important that everybody is counted. Also, here in Lubbock County, we manage about 1,300 miles of rural roads. And so we manage those roads based on the populations of the people who use those roads. So we need to know where everybody lives so that we can adequately make those roads. Because, you know, our roads determine our economics, they determine our education, and they determine our emergency management. So we need to know where people live so that we can adequately fund those services to those people. So it's very important. So as you go out and as you're determining whether or not you want to participate in the 2020 census, we want to make sure not only you participate, but encourage your neighbors as well. Encourage your people at church. Have you signed up for the 2020 census because it's so important. Thank you so much for what you're doing to help us in making sure that everybody in Lubbock County counts.
Big thanks to Judge Parrish for recording that video for us to be shared out today. He knows that the 2020 census is important. He knows how important it is to make sure that Lubbock County is counted on the 2020 census. And again, just thinking about those dollars coming back to our communities. And again, when we're with the census, we're counting folks to let the federal government know who's living in our communities. And that informs them about how many dollars to send back to Texas. And so in Texas, if we have a 1% undercount, we could lose up to $300 million per year for the next 10 years. And again, that's money coming directly out of our communities, from our roads, from our schools, from our healthcare systems. So again, really important to make sure that our communities are counted on the census. Now I would like to pass it over to Jesse Rincones from the Hispanic Baptist Convention. Jesse has been such a strong census advocate and leader when organizing our communities. So welcome, Jesse. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the Panhandle segment of the virtual tour. I'm going to have to confess, for the last 5 years, I've lived in San Antonio, but for the rest of my life, I've always lived north of I-20. So just being a part of the virtual road trip with the Panhandle, I can almost feel the dry heat, and I can almost smell the feed yards from here. So we're really excited to be a part of that work and that effort that is going on. So as we think about the community, I know there's going to be lots of people sharing about Lubbock and Midland and the Permian Basin. So when I think about our community, the community that we're working with the Convención Bautista Hispana de Texas, there are over 1,100 Hispanic Baptist churches in the state of Texas, making it the largest Hispanic Baptist group in the U.S. and the third or fourth largest Latino Baptist group in the world. And our churches are all over the Panhandle and Midland, in communities from Perryton, Amarillo, down to Plainview, Anton, Kittaquay, La Mesa or La Mesa. And so all of these communities, our job is to enable these community partners to share the importance of participating in the census. And I think one of the things that makes our Hispanic community unique in this area and in Texas is the history. We have a long history in this area, beginning with the Bracero programs. I talk to pastors who will ask me, where are you from? And I would say Levelland, Texas, 30 miles west of Lubbock. And they would say, oh, I know that place because my family used to go up there to work in the gins, or to hoe cotton, or to work in the moving water in the fields. And so our communities have a long history in this area of contributing to the economic development and the productivity of the Midland and the Panhandle area. And so I'm so grateful for the history of our communities that are there and that continue to impact. Just in Lubbock, the place where I last pastored and lived, and shout out to Alliance Church there in Lubbock, Texas, on the corner of Loop 289 and 34th Street. I want to say hi to them, but even in Lubbock, one of the parks that's there is Azatlan Park. And now it's a place where kids go out and play soccer, and families have picnics. But at one time, there were thousands of migrants and braceros who slept in tents and row houses there, that worked in the nearby cotton fields or in the railroad lines. And that area was known, those migrant labor camps were known as Mexican Town, or the Chihuahua district. And so I think our communities have a long time history in this area. And when we think about why the 2020 census is important to us and to our community, as a faith community, we go back to scripture for our foundation. And Genesis 1:27 tells us that God created mankind in his own image. So I know that's easy to think about when we think about numbers, and I'm a numbers person. My undergraduate degree was in math from Texas Tech. Go Red Raiders, go Red Raiders. So I love numbers. I think numbers tell a wonderful story. But when we think about the census and we think about percentages and population in Texas or in our counties, we need to remember that each one of those numbers represents a life. It represents a person that was formed in the image of God, and they have this amazing value. And as we think about that community in our our Hispanic community, it's not just the impact, excuse me, that community has in the Panhandle or in our counties, or even in Texas. It's also about the impact that Texans are having in our country. And so this little flag that you see is a representation of the study that was done on the last census that was done in 2010. And they wanted to find out where was the greatest growth of the 18 and under generation from 2000 to 2010. And when they dug in the numbers of the census, they discovered that from that decade, 2000 to 2010, the greatest increase in the 18 and under generation, 53% of all of that generation's increase came from the state of Texas. Yeehaw, right? Yeehaw. So I think that's a really amazing indicator that more than half of our country's next generation came from the state of Texas. But if we dig a little deeper, we discover that 49.3% of the entire growth of the 18 and under generation from 2000 to 2010, 49.3% of that growth came from Hispanics in Texas. So I tell our Hispanic communities that never in the history of our state have we been better poised and better placed with an opportunity to impact our state, impact our communities, and even impact our countries. Our communities are developing the next generation of senators and leaders and judges and teachers, entrepreneurs. So we have a really great opportunity to impact them. And the work that we do on the census today is going to give us the same kind of insight that the last census gave us. And we have such a tremendous young community in our Hispanic community. Right now, if you take the entire Latino population in the whole United States, it doesn't matter if they were born here or they immigrated here, 60% of the entire Latino population in the United States are 38 years old and younger. That means 6 out of 10 out of every Latino in the US are either millennials or Gen Zs. That means they're on Netflix or they're on TikTok, they're on their phones. And so we have an amazing opportunity to connect with our community and make sure that they're counted, because the census is going to directly impact our community, and it impacts one of the biggest areas, of course, that it impacts is education. And even though that college enrollment overall in the United States is down, college enrollment in the United States is down. In 2015, about 19 million students were enrolled in college. 4 years later, in 2019, it had fallen from 19 million to 17.5 million. So even though we have less students enrolled in college, we have a dramatic increase in the Hispanic student enrollment. We have seen that Hispanic student enrollment went from 13.1 million in 2016 to 13.27 million in 2017. That's nearly double the number of Latino students attending in college from 2000, since 2000. And so we have a great opportunity to make sure that our students that are maybe just going into pre-K or that are in middle school or about to graduate from high school, their lives are going to be impacted by the work that we do. Taking 5 to 10 minutes and filling out our census means that those students, our children and our grandchildren, are going to have the opportunity to have the right number of classrooms, the right number of teachers, the finances, the resources, the financial aid, the colleges that are there that are going to be necessary, the training, the job training that they need. And so I think it's really important if we want to impact the future of the educated populace of Texas. We need to do it with our Hispanic students, and we need to make sure that we participate in the census. And I think a second aspect that many people look at in our state is the economic impact of businesses. And Hispanic entrepreneurs owned more than 20% of all of the transportation and warehouse businesses in the entire United States. And about 1 out of every 8 of the country's construction firms were Latino owned. And so in total, Hispanic entrepreneurs provided almost 3 million jobs to United States workers, and in Texas, employed over 100,000 people. And in the US, if you take the Latino GDP, if just the Latinos in the United States, you took their economic output, it would be the 7th largest in the world, right behind France, Germany, and Great Britain. And so we want to make sure that our state continues to be an economic powerhouse. And so I tell people, whether you're pastors and you're collecting tithes, or your government and you're collecting taxes, we want to make sure that our Hispanic population is educated and that they are continue to be an economic powerhouse. So obviously, like all of our other census partners across Texas, with the pandemic situation that is on, we've had to drastically change our plans. Our plans were to use local churches and local community groups to go out into the community and get the word out. And so we've had to move our majority of our work online. We are partnering up with Texas Counts in the virtual Viaje Virtual del Censo. And every single day we're challenging churches in every region. So today, churches in the Panhandle and West Texas region are competing to see how many of them can get the word out more prominently online and on Facebook. And we're highlighting Primera Iglesia Bautista El Buen Pastor from Ingleside. They won the South Texas and RGV Campeonato that we had yesterday. And we know that there are a lot of churches in El Paso that are hyped up to do that. We want to thank our young Latinos that are part of the videos that they're getting out. If you're a young Latino out there, you're probably the tech expert in your family. You've been helping your parents figure out how to use this Zoom thing and how to connect online to their churches, virtual services and things like that. So help them fill out their census and make sure that juntos todos contamos, right? And I just want to do a big shout out to especially our Las Colonias Cuentan emphasis. And I know some of their work was highlighted yesterday, but we had funds for community events in places where there were going to be 3,000 students, 500 Latinas, and we've shifted those funds over. And places that are providing help in the middle of the pandemic are sharing food and groceries, and also sharing the message of Juntos Contamos to make sure that they get that done. So I just want to encourage you, whether you're just an individual, use your online presence, use your emails, do a TikTok. I don't have one because I'm not cool, but you probably are. Help us get the word out. Todos contamos, and we can ensure that todos contamos if juntos contamos. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for sharing out and bringing that data into this conversation. Maybe giving Dr. Lila Valencia a run for her money with some of the stats you're sharing. And proud to say that this millennial Latina has done her census. She's been telling her friends to do the census as well. And thank you again for highlighting how important it is to make sure that the Hispanic, the Latino community is responding to the 2020 census. Because again, we are such a fast growing population. We want to make sure that we're represented. And as a reminder, the census does not care about your citizenship status, whether you're a citizen, non-citizen. If you are here, you deserve to be counted on the 2020 census, and there is not a citizenship question. And then, of course, our youngest Texans, our babies, our toddlers are also counted on that census questionnaire as well. So let's make sure we're counting everyone in our household. Now, I'm really excited because we have two more videos from our friends in Lubbock. Unfortunately, Commissioner Flores was not able to join us today, but he did put together a great video for us to share, talking about, of course, the importance of getting folks counted. So we will share that video now.
Hola, my name is Gilbert Flores. I'm a county commissioner here in Lubbock County. I've been serving Lubbock County off and on for about 20 years. I'm actually serving my 20th year as a county commissioner. I was born and raised in Lubbock County, a little community named Slayton, Texas, just about 15 miles out of Lubbock. My parents were born here in Lubbock, Texas. My grandparents were born in Texas. And even my great-grandparents were born in South Texas, or some of them came out of New Mexico. I am a true citizen of the United States of America. A lot of native blood in me. We all are Americans. Even the people from Mexico are Americans. But so I always say to myself, I'm a citizen of the United States. And I count. I do count. And I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my ancestors, and that is why I'm here with you this afternoon to encourage you to count, to be counted, to be as proud as I am of being a citizen of the United States. Not just an American, but a citizen of the United States. As I mentioned to you before, America is a continent. It's not a nation. So people from Mexico, Central America, Bolivia, Argentina, they're Americans too. So we need to be proud of that. And we need to let people know that we do count in this country. That is why I'm here, to encourage you to count your family, your grandparents, your sons and daughters, tu abuelitos, tu abuelitas. Make sure that everybody's counted this time around in the 2020 census. A lot of it depends on numbers that we can present so we can get that assistance that we deserve. Listen, if you don't want to do it for yourself, please do it for your children. They need the assistance. Not all of us are privileged. Not all of us can afford so many things. There's a lot of poor people in this country that need some assistance, especially our children. That's why it's very important that you get your kids counted also. Es muy importante que todos se cuenten en este país de los Estados Unidos. Hay mucha asistencia del gobierno que recibimos cada año, cada día, para mejorar nuestras familias, para mejorar la educación de nuestros hijos. Como por ejemplo, si usted no se cuenta, si una persona no se cuenta en este país, o aquí en Lubbock o Lubbock County, son $1,500 que no recibimos. Did you hear what I said? Se los digo en inglés. For every one of us that is not counted, we lose $1,500 of assistance, not only for our county, for our city, but for our families, for our kids. Muchos programas dependen en la asistencia del gobierno. Por ejemplo, bueno, ahorita estamos hablando de seguro, de seguranzas, como el programa de CHIPS. Eso le aseguran a nuestros hijos que no tienen seguranza. Esos centavos vienen para ayudar a esos programas. Hay muchas. Comida para nuestros hijos en las escuelas. No todos los hijos de nosotros se comen bien en las mañanas. ¿Ok? Solo que mira, este asistente que nos da el gobierno es para comprarle comida, almuerzos, desayunos a nuestros hijos. They need to eat in the morning also. Some of those kids are not as fortunate as we are. Some of them are not. Some of them need to be fed in the mornings because they leave the house with no food. Those people, we need to take these young people in consideration. Remember, there's so many programs that depend on the amount of people that we turn in on our census. Programs like affect the Medicare, they affect Medicaid, they affect even the way we fund our highways in the state of Texas depend on the amount of people that we represent. Special education grants for those people, those kids that are underprivileged. The state health insurance, which is CHIPS that I mentioned to you. The child care development, babysitting your kids while you work. Those programs also affect foster care, and of course there's some programs also here in the county where you don't have enough money maybe to pay your utilities or improve your houses or this, that, and the other, and we receive those federal funds so we can help you. But it all depends on the amount of people that we turn in as a population during the census. Remember, even voting is important. Voting affects the way with the procedures that we use to vote. Voter registration is very important. Más que nada, what we need to do is we're coming up on the redistricting this year of 2021, and it's very important that we show the right numbers so we won't have any problems redistricting and give me an opportunity to win, and other people such as me, other minorities, Mexicanos, African Americans, con mucho respeto. So it's very important that you go out and get counted. Very important. No te va a costar nada. All you got to do is return the forms that you received in the mail, or ask questions. Call me or call anybody in the public office, and they'll give you the procedures that you can use to be counted. So it's important. It's important that you go out and count not only yourself, but the family, por favor. I want to thank you for allowing me to serve you, not only as a county commissioner here in Lubbock County, but as a public servant. There's such a thing as politicians, and then there's public servants. I'm here to serve you. So again, on behalf of myself and Lubbock County, I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say a few words, as basic and as simple as I could.
Amazing. So glad that we were able to have Commissioner Flores record that very important message for folks in the Panhandle and Lubbock across Texas about getting counted on the 2020 census. So thank you so much, Commissioner, for recording that and allowing us to share it out. Now we have a video from Mr. Dwight McDonald. He serves as the chair of the Complete Count Committee in Lubbock, and I know he is tuning in right now as well. So really excited to share out the video that he sent us.
Hello. My name is Dwight McDonald. I am the chairperson of the Complete Count Committee for the County of Lubbock. And I wanted to thank you for giving me the time to visit with you about the census this year. Now, I understand that these are turbulent and challenging times, that we are all stressed from dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, and then more recently, the social justice issues that have been brought to bear. But please keep in mind that we still need to respond to the census for 2020. You need to understand that this is only once every 10 years. And regardless of whether we get everyone counted or not, these are the numbers that we're going to use, that the federal government is going to use for the next 10 years to determine a lot of the benefits and money that your county receives. So while we continue to deal with these issues, you need to keep in mind that we still have an obligation, constitutional obligation actually, to respond to the census for this year. You can respond either by mail, by telephone, or this year, for the first time ever, you can respond online. It takes 6 to 8 minutes to complete your census online. The U.S. Census Bureau has now started to deliver census packets to those families that have not responded online or by phone at this point, and they will leave them on your doorstep for you to respond and put in the mail. But you can still respond online. As some of us are still social distancing, that is obviously a concern. You don't have to come into contact with anyone to respond online. Now, why is it important that we respond to the census? Because any number of federal programs are funded based on the numbers that are turned in by the census. Programs such as any federal grants, hospital funding, healthcare funding, your highway funding, as well as school lunch programs, not to mention your state and national representatives politically. Those census numbers determine who you will have representing you, or the number of representatives you will have, whether or not you will get money from the federal government to build or expand highways or participate in school lunch programs. All of that is dependent upon the response to the census. Now, more specifically, with regard to Lubbock County, the citizens of Lubbock County need to understand that each person that responds to the census, or each person that is counted in the census from Lubbock County, is worth $1,564 per person per year for 10 years in federal funding. Now, were it so simple that we would just get a check from the federal government for $1,564, I don't think we would need to encourage people to respond. We do not get a check directly from the government, but that money comes to the city of Lubbock and the county of Lubbock to be used to provide services for the citizens of Lubbock. Safety services through the police, highway being built, any trip to the hospital or health care is funded in Lubbock County through federal monies that are received based on the census. So it's important for Lubbock County that we respond at a much higher rate than we have in the past. In 2010, our response rate was 67%. I just checked it today, which is June the 22nd. Our response rate at this point is at 57%. So we have a little ways to go. I understand with the pandemic and everything kind of getting out of line that may have distracted some folks. Therefore, and because of that, the actual deadline for the census was extended from April 15th until October. So we still have until October to respond to the census. I would anticipate that we're going to outstrip our pace of 67% in 2010, but let's not take that for granted. Let's all do our part in Lubbock County to make sure that everyone is counted. Because the reality is, whether we get counted or not, people are still going to use the highways. People are still going to access public health care. People are still going to request and receive public school lunches. So we need to make sure that we get our fair share of the federal monies that are available and that are determined by our census response. So please, make sure that you are counted by responding to the census. And then, do something for your community. Encourage your family and friends to respond to the census in order that we are all counted in Lubbock County. Because the reality is, we all count. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dwight for recording that video and sharing it with us. And I know he is currently tuning in. So again, big thank you to Dwight for recording that. And again, we've gotten so much love for Lubbock. So I know that self-response number is going to be increasing today and this week. And one thing that Dwight did point out, I imagine that there might be some update leave areas through the Panhandle, Permian Basin, of course, in West Texas. And as a reminder for a lot of Texans, they just now received an invitation from the Census Bureau to complete the questionnaire. And so again, we need to remind our communities that the census is here. It takes 10 minutes to fill out. It's safe, it's easy, it's quick. And so again, we want to be going into our communities, letting them know that the census is here, it's available, it's quick, and the Census Bureau is always offering to help, whether you want to call in and fill out the questionnaire, do it by paper, or of course online as well. So we were hoping to have Judge Cano from Brewster County join us today, but I believe he is still in a big important meeting right now. And so I think what we are going to do is allow our resident census expert, Dr. Lila Valencia from the Texas Demographic Center, walk us through the 2020 census self-response rates from West Texas, the Permian Basin, and the Panhandle. So welcome, Lila, to the kickoff event.
Hi, Katie. Good morning or good afternoon, I guess now, to everyone who's joining us. Thank you for being here to have this very important conversation. And thank you to Texas Counts and to Katie. This is a really big state and you've taken on a really huge effort. So thank you for bringing us all together. I wanted to start to share with you a little bit about just what we do at the Texas Demographic Center before I jump into the data with you. The Texas Demographic Center is our core products are population estimates and population projections. We provide those to the legislature as well as to local entities all around the state and other policy and planners, policymakers and planners to be able to inform their decision making. And for those estimates and projections, the decennial counts, they form the baseline for those estimates and projections. And so as you can imagine, the decennial count is very important. It's integral to the work that we do at the Demographic Center. And so we are very much partial to having a complete and accurate count for the state of Texas. You know, not only is it important for the data, like I'm letting you know now, but it's also, of course, important for all of the reasons that you've listed before and the different panelists have discussed. And I really appreciate Judge Parrish's new term of Reuben, because that is the story of Texas too. You know, a lot of times we talk about population growth in Texas and we focus on that, but there is a big section of Texas that is not experiencing growth. And so making sure that we count every single person that is there and not miss anyone will determine whether that count is or that population count is seen as declining and declining even faster, or if it's seen as stabilizing. And I really appreciate all of the demographic analysis that you presented, Jesse. That was so just amazing, and I was really happy to be hearing all of that from you, because that's exactly the kind of work that we look at. Texas is the second youngest state in the country, and much of that is because there's a lot of Hispanic communities in our country, in our state's population. And so the younger that our Hispanics are and the more and larger share they make up of our state's population, the younger that our entire state becomes and stays young. And that's important for a vibrant economy. One of the things that we noticed through some of the work that we do at the center is that many of the Panhandle counties had actually started to age. And so we were looking at the median age and it kept going up and up and up. But as more and more immigrants move into some of those areas where there's more meat packing plants, where there's more agricultural fields, we start to see that median age go down. And really that brings, a lot of economic development to the region as well. So thank you for sharing that analysis. I really geeked out on it. But let me get into our census data, which is what we're here for today. I'm going to share a couple of slides on the top 5 and bottom 5 counties. And so it's going to be really more like top 10 and top, bottom 10, because we are sharing we're covering a really big region today. But the top 5 counties right now, what we're comparing them to are, of course, the national response rate of 61.6%. And so that means that of all of the households that have been invited to participate in the census, 61.6% of them have responded. These are households, right? They're not individual people. We won't know how many people are in each household until we process all of those decennial data, but that's what the response rate means, right? And so the US is at 61.6%, and then Texas is at 56.4%. So as you can see, we're trailing the country. Right now, we're ranked at 41st. And so we have a ways to go. Our 2010 sort of milestone is 64.4%. And so we were really excited to hear when the update leaves operations were resumed by the Census Bureau, because we know that Texas has a significant rural population that was depending on that update leave program to really get the information from the Census Bureau. And so we're hoping to see some of those response rates go up at the state level as well as at the individual county level. And so I'll start here with Randall County, excuse me, has actually been rivaling big counties in Texas in terms of response rate. They have been right up there with the North Texas counties in the Dallas region. And at one point, Randall County was at like #1 or #2 in terms of response rate. Right now, their response rate is 65.1%. They have a ways to go to reach their 2010 milestone, but it's in the single digits. It's 7 percentage points, and we have seen increases from the update leave program that go well beyond 7 points. So we know that Randall County has that within reach. Tom Green is the second highest response rate in the Panhandle and West Texas area, and they're at 61.1 percentage points, and then followed by Lubbock at 57.3, and this is Lubbock County, of course, and then Taylor and Hartley at 55.7 and 54.5. Now, the counties on the table on the right, these are the counties where response rate has been lagging. Response rates, as you can see, are sometimes more than or less than half of what they are for the counties that are at the top, that are leading. And so we've got Schleicher County, Sterling, Koch, Crockett, and King County, all with response rates around 26% and lower. And their 2010 milestones are over 40%. And so they have about half of that way to get there to meet that. And so we really want to make sure that these counties are being targeted in terms of your efforts, your ground efforts, to really ensure that the response rates go up in these areas. On the next slide, I'm going to share some of the counties that were bottom 5 and bottom 5 as well. I should correct that typo. In terms of response rates in more of the West Texas and Permian Basin area. And so you can see that El Paso County has a 59.8% response rate, followed by Midland, Valverde, Ector, and Crane. And their milestones to 2010 are a little bit they're more in the double digits, but we know that there are some great ground efforts going on there, and that we're going to expect to see some increases too. And then these are the counties in West Texas and in the El Paso area that are really lagging right now in response rates. We've got Edwards at 9.4%. To Hudspeth at 15.9%. On the next slide, I'm going to share with you a little bit about sort of the differences that we're seeing in response rate once the update leave program began. As Katie mentioned, update leave is when the Census Bureau has been dropping off census packets individually to these households that are in more rural areas. And there are a lot of rural areas in West Texas, as you well know. And so the Lubbock Area Census Office resumed their update leave operation on May 25th. While many of us have been talking about, responding to the census since about mid-March, the households in these counties, it did not receive word from the Census Bureau until late May. And so it's really important that we reach out to these communities and these counties and let them know you should have received your Census Bureau packet at your doorstep in a socially distant way to ensure safety. Grab that packet and respond, and make sure to let your neighbors know that they should respond as well. And so what we've done here on this table is looked at the self-response rate from today, and then looked at the jump in response rate since update leave was resumed in these counties. And you can see that they have jumped, some places like Motley County by 27% 18.6% in Sterling, Irian at 18%. And so these are the biggest jumps since the Update Leave program has been initiated statewide. We've looked at other areas in the state that also have large Update Leave universes, and their increases have been significant, but these in West Texas and in the Panhandle are the biggest that we've seen. So kudos to you and to your efforts, but we're not quite there yet. Let's keep reminding people to make sure to look for these packets. On the next slide, I show some of the same counties that were in the Update Leave operations that were resumed in the El Paso area census office. This was one of the last area census offices to open in Texas. And so they've had their offices open for about 2 weeks now. So we really need to reach out to these counties and let them know, hey, you've got your packet at your door now. You should make sure to get that and fill it out as soon as possible. Even though they have an Update Leave packet that's been dropped off, they can still respond in one of the 3 ways that are available for response, right? They can mail it back if that's what they feel most comfortable doing. They can go online if they've got good internet access, and then they can phone the Census Bureau's number and respond over the phone as well. On the next slide, I share with you the response rates from some of the biggest areas or biggest cities in West Texas and the Panhandle. And so you can see that San Angelo has the highest response rate of the cities in West Texas and the Panhandle and the Permian Basin region. They're at 62.1%. El Paso City is at 61.4. I want to say El Paso is the biggest city in this region, right? And they are actually among cities of 500,000 or more are ranked 12th nationally. So they're doing great. And we know that they're still working really hard to get even closer to their 2010 milestone. And then ranked 3rd is Amarillo, followed by Lubbock, Socorro, Abilene, Midland, Odessa, and Fort Stockton. And I think Dwight will be happy to see that they went up from earlier this week from 57% to 58%. So keep on doing what you're doing because it's working. Thank you so much for your efforts. I really appreciate it. We'll keep looking at these data and letting you know where we need some extra pushes and where we're seeing your efforts really come to fruition and work to drive up that response rate.
Thank you so much, Lila, for sharing out the self-response data. We've had a lot of Lubbock love today during our kickoff event, and I wonder if they could jump to over 60% in self-response rates today. So really excited to see how these self-response rates continue to go up in the Panhandle and Permian Basin. As you know, again, we are on this virtual road trip, and today is all about West Texas and the Panhandle. And so today, census champions from across this region are doing virtual events. They're doing safe in-person events. They are just trying to get their communities counted on the 2020 census. So if you are tuning in with us, I highly encourage you to follow the Texas Counts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Tag us in your posts so we can share and amplify your efforts, because there are some amazing things happening on the ground with folks getting out the count. Also, if you are hosting events today, please make sure that you're tagging them so we can find them and share them. Again, we have our Texas Counts road trip. You can also just do TX Counts, obviously 2020 census, and then we also have some regional hashtags as well. If you're curious to see what we have coming up on today's events for West Texas, Permian Basin, and Panhandle, we had our kickoff events this morning. Well, we're wrapping up our second one right now. Some really great videos that we're already uploading. Hello from Nolan County, which is wonderful. And then again, we have all of these great events happening virtually. There are some safe in-person events as well. So if you're curious where to check those out, again, just visit texascounts.org, or you can just do txcounts.me/Wednesday. Before we wrap up today's conversation, again, I do want to give a huge thank you to our speakers that joined us today and submitted those amazing videos promoting the 2020 census. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Charlene and Alice, who are with the Census Bureau, who have been working tirelessly to make sure that our communities are counted. So thank you so much to the Census Bureau for your amazing work in helping to get out the count and helping plan some really exciting events today. Again, from Texas Counts, we are on this road trip today. We are in the Panhandle in West Texas. We're heading east, going back up to North Texas, and then rounding off our road trip in Central Texas in the Hill Country on Friday. So I hope that you are tuning in, following along. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you virtually on the road. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.